Good evening. Very good to meet. Especially in the way we are going to meet. I hope you all came hungry. Hungry and thirsty. If I come very full to a dinner, you know the feeling, right? You look at the food, with disinterest. You don't need it. So when we come with the feeling to a satsang that we already know enough, we've already read all the books, or we've already heard all the teachers. And yes, nowadays there is an explosion of information and satsang and teachings and teachers. But to a satsang, even if our periphery already knows and already read and already heard, we must come as if we have never heard and never read and never experienced anything. Because this truth we are going to share is always fresh. So try, please, as much as possible, to shed all past experience, knowledge, and feel like you're approaching it as a child, with an innocent heart, always searching in a way. Always thirsty. Because that which we are going to explore into tonight is never ending. We could never say, okay, I know God. I know truth, I know reality. Technically, essentially speaking, we could never know it. Sometimes people say, yes, I've meditated for 30, 40 years, so I'm an adept, I'm an experienced seeker or finder or whatever. But the very experience of knowing something, of having a baggage of the past, of being experienced or having any kind of continuity of experience is completely contradictory to what we are sharing. It's not like academic studies, that you study layer by layer and you become a professor. There are no professors here. Also here, no professor. Only a child. Hence also no teacher, no students. Let's erase all that and start. Agreed? So I'm inviting you to start with a sort of a meditation. This is one of the meditations that I hold very dear. Cherish greatly because it can give us a wonderful access to all of our talk tonight. For that, please, let's close our eyes. So take a deep breath and prepare for meditation. Relax our body with every breath we take. And as we are sitting here together, let us get in touch with the life force that is pulsating in our body. For this, we need to distinguish body from life force. Body is the blood vessels, the organs, the bones, the skin. This is matter. But in this matter, we can find a sort of streams or rivers of subtle energy. And the more we turn our attention to these rivers of energy, the more they become evident. Feel these streams rushing through your legs, and hands. Feel them in your belly. Soon you will discover that there is so much going on. Like a ceaseless river inside you. Find it in your chest. Face. It's like the excitement of life in you. This life is excited in you whether you are right now depressed or happy. As long as you're alive, you're full of it. So feel this rush of life that constantly animates your physical body. From head to toe, in your fingertips, and now examine if this life force, this rush is really just within your body. Is it limited to the outlines of your body? Or can you contact this life force also somehow around the body? Can you really say that it stops in some borderline? Or is this life force in a way bigger than the body? And it's only flowing through the body, but not limited to it. And now examine whether this life force is not also the same life force in the entire room right now. Can you really find a limit to it? Does it really start and end with what you call you? Or is it throbbing outside and inside you in the same measure? So is there really an inside and an outside to the life force? And does it stop in the ceiling? Or can you begin to feel the life force also outside the room in the same measure? Now breathe into this life force. And with every breath, see how it is spreading. And how your personal life force is actually not personal at all. So try to keep this sense of all-inclusive river also when you allow your eyes to open up. You don't have to open your eyes, of course, because essentially it will be the same. So So you see, life is full of life. And our illusion begins when we experience my life as some kind of an isolated island where we stand, where it ends here with a me. And this life is tremendous, and yet it's not what we usually call life. Because you see, when you see a butterfly that for some wonderful reason comes out of the cocoon and spreads wings and has some, well, relatively short life. So we think that this butterfly is alive. But what is really alive is not the butterfly. It's the life that makes the butterfly move for some time. When this life leaves the butterfly is nothing. It's matter. So our first step is to begin to get in touch with this life. This life that is inside us and that is everywhere. And we need to differentiate, because sometimes we don't, between two things. One is this life, the other is the world. The world is man-made, thought-made. It's created by our thinking and by human imagination. Everything that we see in the world and that we... Can I please have some water? It's also life. Everything we see in the world and we forget ourselves in, and we think that this is life, is actually what human thought has created out of sheer imagination. Which is nice. It's nice to imagine, right? It's great to be able to imagine because imagination can give us many things. Probably what makes us such a special animal is because we are able to imagine. So then we stand in front of rocks and just like other animals stand in front of all the forces and materials of nature. But we think, hey, why can't we build out of this? Why can't we create all kinds of tools, all kinds of devices? Thank you. Clothing, we have the capacity to have certain thoughts about a different reality, a possible reality, what we could make out of life, and here it is, which is great. So this is what we can call creative imagination. It's the good imagination that makes us humans. But then there is the wrong type of imagination, destructive imagination. It's when we begin to use our capacity to imagine, to think of different reality, to think outside of life, then we begin to create a very strange world. You see? And in this world, there are Israelis and Germans. We imagine countries. We imagine that in the future there is a better reality, a happier reality, that in the future there is fulfillment. We imagine that we are dissatisfied, and that as long as our certain imaginations are not fulfilled, we cannot be satisfied. And we share this imagination. You see, we begin to have certain values that to be rich or to be famous or to be successful in the world or to be a someone in the world, this is actually living. While all this is imagination, everything we share as humans is imagination. And one of perhaps the biggest thing we imagine is a personal self. Some kind of a substantial entity that actually exists and that has a life of its own. So this is where we need to start seeing where this distorted type of imagination can stop. This imagination that makes us fantasize all the time, that keeps us in a trap of an unfulfilled life. That keeps everyone running around in the effort of becoming. And the world exists only in our shared imagination. What we agree that is real. But outside it, there is life. It's the same life that is going to remain also after this whole human mess, noise, great noise that we're making is going to vanish into thin air. And when we start getting in touch with it, we start feeling that we are in a direct connection with life. That's why Jesus said, I am life. Because it doesn't, this doesn't make sense. Why would he say life? Surely it doesn't mean biological life, right? Not that's the definition of the need to procreate or whatever, the wish of organisms to spread and so on. There is something else. And this is the real life that is pulsating and throbbing in the cosmos. And to get in touch with it, you must first see. In a way, from the outside, all the human drama. As one big imagination that happens in the midst of life. This is why in Satsang we don't separate from just this thought or that thought. There is like a mother thought. A mother thought is this big imagination of something else. Outside of this wholeness, outside of the totality of life. For in deep meditation, you are able to see this. Even the story of your life, this whole noise of becoming, of trying, of conflict and so on, is just one thought. The more you get in touch with life, the more you realize, I am here not to be a part of the world. I am here to take part in life. And this begins to connect us to something that is really ageless. I always I use imagination for this is the creative imagination that helps us be free, for example. So I always enjoy thinking in the same way I could be put in, I don't know, in ancient Greece as a woman. Then I would be completely identified as a woman in ancient Greece. I will have the values of ancient Greece. I will see the world as a Greek. I will see the world as a woman. All in the interaction of the time. What was valuable then, what was considered by the shared imagination of humans then as worthy or important and so on. So as long as I'm a part of the world, I'm just a product of my time. I'm a product of the world. The way the world is designed right now. It will change. It has changed millions of times. But life hasn't changed. It has been the same life from the beginning of time and before that. And this is the funny thing, you see, through the world we keep trying to feel alive. You know that, right? We try through objects to do this, to do that in order to feel more alive. We try all the things that the human imagination offers us to feel alive. They tell us, do this, and you will feel more alive, more fulfilled. And we never understand why following this path of human imagination always keeps us unfulfilled. The answer is simple. It has nothing to do with life. And we are thirsty and hungry for life. For this thing that is rushing through, that animates our body, that animates it all. The whole world is breathing, is able to move and imagine also, only thanks to this ray of life that warms it for a moment. Only in that moment when I get in touch with the eternal life in me and outside me, can I feel satisfied? And you may not believe me, so you will try. Go on trying. You see this and that and this and that and this and that. And every time human imagination makes us think, wait, something is still incomplete. Maybe I will try this. Maybe there is something after all in the world. And life will wait for us. It has patience. It's ageless. It loses nothing by us not communicating with it. Only us are losing something. Everything we've ever experienced, whether through ecstatic dancing, through passionate lovemaking, through a creative act, anything that made us feel alive was just an echo, a reminder. But since we cannot hold on to it, nobody can dance ecstatically for too long, right? At least not for a lifetime. And nobody can make love for a lifetime, or engage in creativity without interruption. It's eventually we are thrown back to ourselves, and as long as we are thrown back to ourselves and find ourselves with this imagination that we share with the entire world, we will find there only one thing. No matter how we call it, no matter what colors it has, style it has, individual design, it's the sense that we are moving forward constantly with every day passing towards some imagined state of ourselves. This very wild imagination keeps the whole of humanity moving all the time. We are slaves of it. We think we ride the wave of time. It rides us completely. Because when it comes to life, we are moving nowhere. We are reaching nothing. Even when we reach Mars, and I don't know, Andromeda Galaxy, we'll come there with our spaceships, proud and happy. Then we will be stuck with the very same question. Where is life? And why is it that even that we have reached Andromeda galaxy, we're still dissatisfied? So this capacity to think is wonderful. Mind is a wonderful thing. But not when it comes to capturing reality or capturing the self, our experience of ourselves, of reality, of life. It has nothing, it cannot do anything when it comes to that. It can only create death. The death of self-created world. When we are here together like this, perhaps for a moment even the movement of time stops. And then we begin to realize that time is just a part of what the world imagines. And we are now in quite a danger with all this overwhelming technology, because it enhances tremendously the sense of imagined time, the movement, the quickness, the stimulation of the world, thoughts that are meant constantly to trigger our imagination. So to be able to contact in our time, life, we need to be aware also of that. We need to be able to see the world. From time to time, take a look at all this craziness that is going on. With every conflict we are supposedly solving, we are creating another conflict. And there's never a sense of completion. How can there be? But if you want to say goodbye at the moment of death, in a state of completion, you must separate from the world. Of course, the great irony is that when you do that, when you die, you know that you could never die. The only thing that dies is your thought. the world that you created through imagination of me, mine, this, that, all this little island, only that is going to die. Is life going to die? Are you going to stop being alive? What is that? How can life be turned into death? You are alive. You are not alive. Even the funny thought that we sometimes say, we talk about life is funny. Isn't it funny? I mean, where are we? You see, are we somewhere here and there is life? We're talking about life. How can this be? It can be because we can imagine. So it's easy to forget life. Because the world is doing everything it can to remind us that it's the real thing that is happening. There's always something that is happening. All this ebb and tide all the time. Coming, going, increasing, diminishing. Excitement, good things happen, bad things happen. All the time it seems like something is really going on. And something is really also building up towards something that is at any given moment. We get that, by the way, in spirituality. We have that also as our grand imagination that is called enlightenment. That is like we are building towards enlightenment, one step after another. One day I will be enlightened, then everything will be okay. All my problems will be solved. I will be in a great state. So I just need to purify, need to drop this, need to drop that. Slowly, I'm approaching the big enlightenment, imagination. Because enlightenment is not approachable. This is how even enlightenment becomes a part of the world, you see? A part of thought. So here is life, just under thought's nose, 1 millimeter below. Always, everywhere. Only requires attention. That you put your heart on the wish to know life, not the world. And how easy it is to evoke it, but just putting our attention on it. If we are sensitive, it is here. Try when you walk on the street not to always look at what is happening, although usually we don't even look at what is happening because we are so absorbed in our own imagination, in our own build-up, our own well-planned life, right? We keep planning life all the time, like cautiously building it, arranging it, strategically making it work with all our might, and then die. I always think how funny it is, that how much caution and careful thinking and planning we put on this thing that is going to perish. All of our house of cards is going to just come apart. And of course you need to plan, but not to put in this planning your hope for life. Because life is not there. It's never going to happen. When you walk on the street, first try for some time not to imagine. And second, not to put the attention on all the people and everything that is happening, but on the force that is making everything happen. Right now, this is not important. This thing that speaks is not important. What is important is the energy that makes this speak. This is sacred. This energy is God. In the deep, in the real sense of God, not the imagined God that humans share. The reality of throbbing life that makes us speak and makes us imagine and makes us create and makes us love. That's the only thing that gives sense to the world. As humanity, we are given one drop of it, of this life, and it is enough to create this whole tremendous happening. One day the drop will be taken away, returned to the ocean. humanity will be over. Don't think it will ever be here. But the life will not be over. Now let's see if you have questions. You are welcome to ask anything. Okay, 1, 2, yes, please, let's start.
Could anybody in this room become enlightened now? Or is there any capacity you have to build up to it?
Could anybody
in this room become enlightened just now?
It's like a teasing question?
Yeah, or is there any capacity that you have to build up?
Okay. What is the capacity? The capacity is obviously the maturity that makes it possible for me to separate from the world. Because how can everybody so-called become enlightened? Please understand that this is just a fun sentence to say. There is no more stupid sentence than this. Let us agree that none of us will ever get enlightened, because this is impossible. Please remember, enlightenment is when the self is gone. So that doesn't make sense to even speak like that. All our treatment of holy people, the enlightened people and so on, it's ridiculous, because it makes them more special. And this is not what they are. They are less special. So you need to treat them like you treat a stone or something, you see. People who imagine that they exist, they are special. You must treat them like they pretend to be, right? Otherwise you offend them. They walk around and they feel that they stand out. They exist. That means they are special. So being enlightened is being like as special as a rock. It is not an honorable state. Unless if you appreciate rocks and so on, then I applaud, because that means you have special attention to God's little creatures. Usually rocks, we tend to think that this is not even as alive, it's just there. So please, let's agree on that. If you are in this life, your business is to become the most non-special thing that exists, then go for enlightenment, you see. Otherwise, stay away, because if you want to be a something in this life, that is not the direction. It's like enlightenment is being like the wind. No one notices the wind, unless it's really cold or, you know, really troublesome. But if it's a breeze or something, nobody thinks here is a something. If you are willing to be like the wind, as unimportant, as natural, as nothing, then enlightenment is a thing to contact. Not being enlightened, this is impossible. Enlightenment is without an enlightened. It's just a reality that is not experienced, that has no center. There are no enlightened ones in this world. That's why all this nonsense of guru worship is so contradictory to the actual reality of enlightenment. You cannot separate someone and say, oh, the enlightened one, because otherwise you miss the whole point. But if you say, oh, this is the enlightenment that is inside and outside, then you, it's beautiful, it's meaningful to get in touch with it. Actually, it's the only thing. So it's our maturity to be a nobody, to let go of the dream of the self becoming anything that can determine whether there is enough openness, not to glimpse, not to get in touch with it. Anyone can all the time. It's like it's the easiest thing in the world. Spiritual experiences are like, you just need a little sensitivity, a little silence. When I give retreats, there is not even one single person in the room after 5 days that has not experienced a certain revelation. But to be able to let go into that, to let this very tired and agitated drop just fall into the ocean with a sigh of, enough with this story. I can't create myself anymore. I can't imagine myself anymore. This is not interesting. But for that you need to be able to look at this whole humanity and what it gives priority to. You see, all these things that it considers, all the things that it worships. Self-fulfillment, money, sex, desires, pleasures, power, love. I'm saying love, what we call love, because they stole the word, you see. Human imagination took the words God and love and made something really funny out of it. That now even in pop songs we have love, you see. Can you look at all this and think, I'm not interested, I want only the eternal. if you can say that with an assured feeling inside, a deep and beautiful fatigue, this is maturation, maturity. It's like it's the maturity of someone who has experienced countless lifetimes. It's like being an ancient soul. It's something that says, yes, okay, I got the human story. It's not, it looks like very impressive, but then when you look at it, it can be encapsulated in one drop of madness. And please understand, it's not that there is no great beauty in humanity. How can there be no great beauty? It's given by life, you see? It's permitted by life. We have extraordinary expressions of life in the world. Still, as a big project that is called humanity, could you let that end in you? Because to be in enlightenment, to disappear into enlightenment, means to also say there is your core separates from humanness. Your core. Not of course, your personality or day-to-day reality. Of course, it's human, but your core says goodbye. You are now a part of consciousness, a part of the big ocean, of the vastness of life, of this thing that has existed before the beginning of time. And you're watching it all from that vastness. So please, let us not talk about enlightenment as some kind of a toy that the self would have to play with. It's not something that we're going to have. If we find in it some kind of power, or the wish for, I don't know, a relief from our problems, or the hope to be a guru, whatever. You need to understand it's a deep, deep, deep renunciation at the core of your being. But not because you are going to be a poor renunciate, but because you're going to the richness of life. Do you understand? You're going to be so rich, swimming in the money of life, in the treasures of life. Something that is completely unnoticed and unappreciated by the human imagination. So the spiritual process is just the process of being able to contain the whole human experience and to understand it. To see it from one big entertainment park as if it's full of wonderful facilities and that you want to go there and there and there and there and there and there and there. I want to And then sometimes you find the roller coaster that is wonderful and you want again and again and again. Or that you suddenly see the whole entertainment park as just one thought. Like a bubble in the mind. A bubble that can explode. So it's not renunciation, it's a tremendous joy, but it demands a really great disbelief in the promise of thought. Really looking it in the eye and saying, it's shallow, it's not substantial, it's not like really, let's say, romantic relationships. They seem so promising. It's like every time we enter them and we think happiness is there. We don't understand that romantic relationships hold no happiness. They are not happiness. They give us short glimpses of happiness, just like everything else could in the world, because the world is just warmed by the big ray of life. And then this big ray creates fractions. It breaks into fractions of happiness, joy, beauty, love, and meaning. And then you find it in some experience and you say, here it is. But then you try to hold on and then it suddenly transforms also into pain, disappointment, attachment, anger, hatred, grudge, and we always are insulted by it. It's like, how could this romantic relationship turn into something that is not happy? It was meant to be happiness. No, it was meant to be a complete contradiction all the way of beauty, ugliness, love, taking for granted, appreciation, hostility. This is the world. This is where, when thought interacts with another thought, when will interacts with another will, it always creates friction. So to be able to be so mature that you can actually take back the harmony, the promise of complete harmony and peace, and from the heart of romantic relationships, and to say, okay, it's not there. It's just I saw the rays of the sun flickering in it, but it's not. The relationship doesn't hold it. It cannot. Then you become completely disillusioned. And then finally, when you enter a relationship, it's realistic. It's like, yeah, I know. It's going to be terrible. And it's going to be wonderful. Sometimes it's going to be terrible and wonderful. Which is amazing, right? Just like, being in the body is an amazing experience, right? When you're healthy. When you're unhealthy, for some reason, when you have, I don't know, you ate something really bad, or you suffer from some disease, or you are in a terrible climate, suddenly being in the body is really a nasty experience. So it gives you amazing things. But it also, there is a price to pay. This is life in the world. This is the thing. And as soon as you stop hoping for it to become a complete source of happiness, harmony, beauty, and love, you let go. Finally, this poor, poor world, it cannot do that for you. It's just a thought that it could. And this is the amazing thing. As soon as you move your gaze away from the world, you realize that life is ready, even more than you, and willing more than you to wrap you inside it. It's like life is eager. It is knocking on our door much more than we are knocking on its door. It's not that. The desire is mutual. And then it is not really this old story of wanting enlightenment and not having it, as if it's some sort of an object that refuses you. This is ridiculous. As soon as you want it, it's there. Because there is no differentiation, there is no dividing line between the wanting and life. As soon as you are mature, it is here. It's your love to the great ray of sun that makes it suddenly reveal itself as that which illuminates everything. So the question is not can everyone become enlightened at this moment, but does anyone even want that? Seriously. Or do we want a little of that and a little of the other thing, which is what we will get? When I was 23, and I have no idea why it was like that. I cannot explain. I only wanted that. I had a mantra in my mind, and it ran without my control. It wasn't my mantra. It was the sentence, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I don't know why it was there, but it was my ecstatic love affair that I couldn't control, this bubbling, this excitement towards the eternal. And it blinded me to everything that was objects. I only wanted to get in touch with that thing that was throbbing in the air, and that's it. And if there was a whirlpool, that I would know at that moment that entering it I would die, or at least the physical would die, there was no question if I would think for a moment to stay. You see? It was just like that. I don't know why.
About my own question.
You're
My thoughts.
confused about your, let's see.
But
Yes?
I'm always trying to find an image or about the relation between world and life. So how is the connection? And why is there this alienation?
Why is there?
Why is there my alienation from life?
No, I couldn't hear.
My alienation from freedom? Why I'm alienated from life?
Uh-huh, okay.
Is it a kind of amnesia or why I'm separated from life? I mean, through thought, but why?
Why are you separate from life?
Yeah, what is kind of the process of alienation which is behind this separation of life? Or why is the world and the life not one?
Why is the world and life are not one? Well, the world is a very interesting phenomenon. It got a permission from life to imagine separation from life. It's a phenomena inside life that got a permission. It's like telling it, okay, you have the capacity to separate from me for some time and to experience yourself as something that is not me. Deeply speaking, of course, it is again another experience of life. Life is experiencing separation, individualization. It experiences a world that becomes secular in the not secular versus religious, not like we speak of secular. Secular means this feeling of my life. This feeling of the feeling that you get, when you walk on the streets of a city and you have no memory even that we are in the cosmos. Do you remember? It's like sometimes we say, oh, full moon today. Oh, okay. And it's like it means nothing. You see, it means nothing that we are right now like one big spaceship hovering in dark, infinite space. We don't remember that. Because we are so immersed in this little world, like an anthill that we create here. You see that there is a wonderful movie. I don't know if it's wonderful. No, it's not fair to say. It's really nice movie that is called Ants. It's very funny because Woody Allen plays there an ant. And why I love this movie so much is because it's a complete drama that is taking place in an anthill. A complete drama, and you are in it, and there are wars, and there is triumph, and there is heroism and sacrifice and everything. And then at the end of the movie, suddenly the camera moves out, zooms out of the anthill, and more, and more, and then you see where it all took place. It was near a garbage can, in a park, in a public park in a city. So you begin to see, and you see people suddenly, people walking around, and everyone is indifferent to all this tremendous drama that was happening over there. And it's like, then it goes more and more and more, and then you realize that it's us. You see? We are this anthill. Not aware at all that we are in a huge thing, forgetting ourselves in such petty stories with such microscopic excitement on our tiny, tiny, tiny pleasures and disappointments. It's so strange. We can waste a whole lifetime just thinking about such small things and deal with them with such passion. We put so much energy. And we talk, people can sometimes talk about their things, their issues, so endlessly that all this life force, the wonderful gift, is wasted on such petty things. So we are separated because we have given permission. And this separation gives us as human beings, by the way, a great thing that also belongs to life, which is called consciousness. This consciousness can reflect, can write books, can create, bring forth tremendous creativity. We know what extraordinary things can happen through consciousness. So that's the price of consciousness, that it can also imagine. They must come together, consciousness and imagination. It's the capacity to, in a way, develop from life, create new branches. The problem is when we create new branches of thought, of self-obsession, of wills, of discontentment. This is where we are lost. If we could imagine, if we could feel our imagination as a part of life, as a part of the extension, as an extension of life, then what a beautiful thing it is, you see? And there were some, painters or writers or teachers, of course, or philosophers that experience their own philosophy or creativity or intelligence as a part of life. That is beautiful. This is where our consciousness is meaningful. Then you get an Einstein, a Da Vinci, a Ramana Maharishi, all this. Because, and they always, these kind of people, they have this deep religious feeling. They have it, they're not necessarily religious. Like in the imagined world, they are really religious. Religion means to give more importance to that which animates life than to life itself. This is religion. And if we have this sense, we are religious. So this is why you feel separated, but because you are allowed to. And you can enjoy it for some time, until you don't. Until you feel something strange. until you feel like Woody Allen stuck in an anthill, you see. Then you say, what is going on? Are we really here, or is there some zoom out that will show me a little more where I am? With consciousness, you can zoom out. You don't need this camera, you see? And this is what we can do in satsang, and this is what we do in meditation also. We suddenly zoom out. And we say, oh my God, what a stupid, petty thing is this self of mine. This bubble of repetitive thoughts that pretends to be creative and constructive is meaningless, pointless. And when it explodes, it's such, not only a relief, but such happiness, because you are in life. And life is so generous because it fills you with its richness so quickly. You feel bubbling, you feel this thing only increasing. You feel cosmos inside you, outside you. And you know that this thing that is you could never die. Because you see, sometimes people in the spiritual world, they make the mistake of thinking that they're meant to kill all their urges and energies and passions and creativity, and to become some kind of a dead thing and to end separation. But it's not that. What is meant to be ended is the sense that we are separated from, so we are separate from the river of life. Our energies, our passions, our creativity are not our own. They are branches, extensions. So it's in the real spirituality, you don't become less alive, you become so alive that you're exploding. You are life, and you have no boundaries. You are bubbling. You are passion. You are the fire. You are this burst of energy that erupted from the source. So this is what we call enlightenment, you see. It's when you turn to life and you say, you know what? This thing that you gave me, this permission to imagine, take it back. I don't need it anymore. I don't want to imagine this anthill story anymore. I'm ready to be absorbed. Nothing really changes as a result. Only everything. No, I'm saying nothing changes because the many of your talents and skills and capacities and energies and passions and your personality and your tendencies and your likes and your dislikes, all of these may remain, only in a completely different context. They stop being your own. Thank you. Now, if after this talk you are still hungry and thirsty, you are blessed.